Now I want to listen to the key macroeconomic policies now that we underpin the budget for 2025. And so no other person best placed to put that into perspective and take us to Economics 101 so that we understand how projections are done, how deficits are financed, and how to bring down inflation and stabilize the exchange rates. No other person than the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mr. Sheku Bangura.
Thank you very much, FS. Honorable Vice President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, may I ask to stand on the existing protocol, please? Ladies and gentlemen, honorable ministers, colleagues, it's a great pleasure to join, and I'm very pleased. We have a very full hall. So this is one of those important events for the government. This year's policy hearings is the second under His Excellency's second term. And it reaffirms the priority of policies and strategies that have been articulated in the medium-term National Development Plan, which my colleague, the Minister of Development and Economic Planning, had actually eloquently articulated and giving an insight into how we wish to see that plan implemented. And of course, we're all aware that a key focus, the government intends to embark on a transformative acceleration agenda for delivering on food security, human capital development, and job creation. And since His Excellency came to office in 2018, the government has implemented bold policy interventions to transform our human capital development status through the flagship on free quality education program, which was the focus of the previous National Development Plan. But also, I think we have embarked on many measures to weather storms that are emanated both internally but also externally as well, in multiple forms. Be they what happened with COVID, which I think we did very well to cool down, given the kind of results and the impact on the economy, but also I think the impact of the Ukraine-Russian crisis, which we never envisaged. But what we have come to realize as economic planners or even managers, we're in a permanent shock environment because of the kind of developments that we have seen emanating across the world. And they do affect our economy in trivial ways. But I must say that we had remained resilient as an economy all throughout this period. And I will just embark on prefacing what the resilience means by giving you some overview of the current macro situation in the macroeconomic situation. Honorable Vice President and colleague ministers and ladies and gentlemen, the rebased GDP, we did the rebasing of the GDP, and I think it's important that we understand what that means. It points to a shift since 2018, and it's based on 2018 baseline. Since 2018, what we have is a larger economy, but the structure of this economy has shifted. And I think it's important to share that as a way of sharpening the minds of policymakers, and the way we should think about shifting policy to capitalize on what this means. In fact, when you are running an economy, most of our economies we are deemed as those that desire structural transformation. What we have had is structural shift. I don't think we have had transformation yet, and I'll speak to this. But the shift is a prelude for us to sharpen the way we think about planning and interventions in the economy. What is clear from the shift is that one, the size of the economy doubled in nominal terms. And that's important. We are cruising at a $4 billion economy. We are $8 billion economy now. I mean, that is very important to appreciate. And this happened, this is really, has been happening over the years, but since 2018 to now, it's what we have been able to establish. And the Statistics Leone has published that report, and I encourage everyone to go to their site to read the fundamentals around it. We are supported by international partners to do this analysis. And what has shifted? We have shifted from the dominance of the agricultural sector to a strategic dominance of the service sector, but also the phenomenal importance of industry. That is what it is. These are the three categories. But the rationale is we are now capturing informalities. So there's more informalities in the economy that we have brought into our calculations. And then also, we are capturing new activities in the industry, especially mining, that is happening. And what it shows in terms of growth numbers, and I think I should share this, we have agriculture was 64% of this economy, based on the new rebased GDP. It is now only 29.1%. Still significant, but I think it's important to understand what that shift means. Industry was 7.8% of the economy. We now have a 26% of industry in this economy. So I think that's really a very phenomenal shift. Service sector was 24.7%. It's now accounting for 42.2%. And in the service sector, I think I should share some notes here. If you see the transport sector with motorbikes, with kekes, with hotels, with those have been captured in a phenomenal way. They may not be transformational. They may not be transformational. But they have shown that there is a growth that we are seeing in the economy on economic activities. We are accounting for everybody contributing to the state industry. In the industry, it's largely mining. And I say it's not transformational because we're not adding value here. Okay, we are exporting, and it's an enclave sector, but we are capturing the extent of the growing number of mining activities in the country. But also, the shift from agriculture has actually moved into, we're seeing manufacturing along the agricultural value chain. It's important to note that there are industries springing up, and they are springing up in ways that we are capturing them. Now, we'll list some few, whether it has to be with areas utilizing oil palm to produce bottle, margarine, those things for oil, and the like in country is visible. You see our sons, and these entities are just signaling that we are capturing their activities. So, I think it is important to appreciate that. And for the growth numbers, I will encourage us to quickly transition into using the growth statistics underpinning this done by Statistics Leone and own it. Right? So the earlier numbers that were pronounced by the FS, and I'm not discounting that because I'm using, there are two numbers that we're using. There's the IMF number, but there's the number from Statistics Leone. When you propagate that, there are good values coming out of that. So it means we have been resilient, even during the COVID period and immediately after that. When we did the rebasing, it told us that the earlier numbers we are recording as growth, our growth levels were high. The reason why we have not actually classically witnessed, shortages of essential commodities in this economy, because we've been providing them through policies. Growth is being above the way we are recording them. And I dare to say that for 2023, in fact, we grew at 5.7% than the 3.4% that was earlier recorded, because we're using two baselines for this years for assessing the economy. So we have a more resilient economy than we used to have before. And I think that is important to drive home because it will underpin what we're going to be talking about. There are other fundamentals of the economy that are important to throw light on, and I think FS shed light on this, and we have to capitalize on them because there is a work underway to ensure that we have a proper grip on stabilization of this economy. Inflation is a very key indicator. Inflation had peaked at 54% in October 2023. We have seen from this over 20 something percent, if I do the maths very easily, over 22-23% reduction in inflation. And it's continuing to go down. I think that's a phenomenal number. Yes, it's showing real efforts through policies, both fiscal but also monetary policy, that have been supporting this. But also, I think, structural measures, because inflation is measured from those two perspectives. They are macro aligned indicators, but also, I think, they are structural indicators that are dealing with the baskets of commodities. And when you see those baskets of commodities, the way their prices are measured, we are a small open economy. We're small open in the sense that we import largely and actually largely driven domestic production. So external prices will affect us. But because we have had stability around, prudence around fiscal policy, and then stability around exchange rates, but also increased domestic production of key food items, that in that basket, we've been seeing this reinforcing decline in price level. And it's showing in the markets, except when you have instances of social instability tendencies, then they will spike of prices, but not in a sustained way. So when they say they are spiking, when there's those risks, and then people leave the market, then prices tend to spike a little bit, but the fundamentals remain very solid and they will go back to normal. So, and we are watching this on a continuous basis. Our currency has been stable because we've gone past the process of the redenomination, and there are assurances and confidence built into the economy, and that has assured a stable currency over the last 1 year, right? And I think the currency has settled, because after that shock, it has to actually attain a new equilibrium. And the new equilibrium, we know, is hovering around where it is. Our responsibility as economic managers is to ensure that it does not fluctuate too badly, but should be within reasonable band that can allow the business community to be able to predict in their business investment. And I can give that assurance that that's where we are. What are we grappling with? There are challenges, because we are not done with this work yet. The challenge is our interest rate level is still high. The reason is very simple. Our deficit service responsibility are very high. Why? Because after the rebasing, we have come to realize that our revenue efforts needs to be phenomenally, fundamentally redoubled. Our revenue efforts, and I'll speak to that, is hovering around 7.8%. That's what it is as of 2023, which is on the very, very, very low side. We should be really, really aiming to be doing 20% efforts in the country. But we are doing 7.8% after rebasing. So it will show up on the appetite of the government to go out there, to be participating in the financial market, to take access to credit, to cover up for this shortfall in domestic revenue mobilization. And it puts pressure on interest rates. But that's where the challenge is, and the reason why, when you're doing the budget, when you're asking leaders in the executive to give direction for policy, it is these matters that they have to look at and see exactly how we increase revenue mobilization. Honorable Vice President and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, against this background, the budget for 2025 will aim to implement interventions and policies to reduce and address the fundamental challenge of cost of living, because prices are coming down, but they are still elevated somewhat. But at the same time, improve livelihood by ensuring that we have interventions that can foster a sustainable inclusive economic growth and transformation. Now, the fiscal framework and the medium-term budgets will therefore support the implementation of the Big Five game changers, and the development agenda recognizes the importance of reducing food insecurity, increasing domestic production that will ensure availability and affordability of food for all citizens. The implementation of this agenda, however, requires substantial resources. And the domestic revenue, as I've noted, for the year, we expect to mobilize 19 billion. which is far less than the projected expenditures that we have for the year, which is about 35 billion. 19 billion, as I said, will only account for 8.7%, a very slight increase above what we expect to mobilize in 2024, which is about 7.8. Now, and the government will therefore continue to pursue very structured policies, fiscal consolidation through enhanced revenue mobilization, and rationalize non-priority expenditures whilst we're protecting social spending and development expenditures. That's a policy approach, and I think I have to come up clear that as part of this process, we'll continue to implement reforms to broaden the tax base, improve tax compliance, as we have outlined in the medium-term revenue mobilization strategy. There's a medium-term revenue mobilization strategy that I think is populated, and there's a structured committee with the partners, but also key stakeholders in the economy. We look at how that is implemented. It will inform our Finance Act for this year. And our Finance Act for this year will focus largely on efficiency in tax collection using technology and shifts in policies. Shifts in some types of policies, for example, corporate income tax policy, the details of which we'll be engaging, discussing, and see exactly how that takes shape. We'll try as best as possible to avoid, and we'll improve on compliance, as I've noted, because compliance, tax compliance, is very low in the country. We have assessed it. I think we are hovering just about 50% of those who are supposed to really file taxes are filing tax in the country. So we are not collecting. Yes, we are not collecting because of efficiency measures, compliance measures, and administrative weaknesses. So I think we are going to be focusing on ensuring that we ensure compliance with tax measures, tax policies, because we have laws that back us to do those. We will limit externalities on certain products, because we are committed to gradually ensure that products that are not good for the health of the society, you have to ensure that you are not mean on it, especially when we don't compete effectively in the sub-region. So tobacco, drinks, all of those will happen on slowly making sure that we take the kind of policy measures that help people in preferential decisions. That's basically what I mean by limiting externalities. So grand policy posture for the finance bill is we really are not going to be big on introducing new tax rates, new tax measures. That's not the posture. The posture is to ensure that we introduce efficiency in the existing measure, because we had front-loaded in 2023 and 2024 most of the tax increases in the system. We're going to try and avoid as much as possible the copycat tendencies that are permeating across some of the regions when you try to increase tax and you trigger social problems in countries. So that's the posture that we are going to be pursuing on tax revenue. We are going to go innovative on mobilizing external capital. And I heard very clearly from the Minister of Development the gap that we have in funding the National Development Plan. And so, external resource mobilization, two components. Traditional external resource mobilization will be optimized. And let me speak to this. And you're aware, government has been engaging development partners to mobilize additional resources to complement our domestic revenue to support the 5 game changers. Recently, His Excellency spearheaded a high-level investment roundtable on renewable energy and food security in Vienna, and where he would the Arab Coordinating Group. This was actually spearheaded jointly by Open Fund and Badia, the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa. That effort, I think, really pushed out strong commitments that we have started materializing already. We have materialized a commitment by IFAD, who actually did pledge $90 million for supporting the feed salon agenda, purely in the area of poultry investment at scale. $90 million poultry investment in this country will be phenomenal. So I think that's really excellent, and it's been negotiated, and we are going to get into effectiveness of the implementation and going down on that money. But there are resources that were pledged by other Arab countries, both Badia, OPEC Fund, both to the tune of $500 million, and put all together by others, including Africa 50, over $850 million were actually pledged. We are actively engaged in mobilizing those resources to support both the feed salon, but also the renewable energy interventions. Now, I should speak about MCC as well. There's a $480 million approval that has been sought, and we are awaiting signals to finalize, get all arrangements for the signing of the grant. And what does it seek? I mean, it seeks to support 3 key interventions in a sector that I believe is a foundational sector for pushing our development agenda, which is the energy sector, foundational infrastructure. And so the MCC will focus on increasing coverage and reliability of our transmission network, make it modern and centralized system, increase reliable availability of services for community. That means our distribution network, but also, I think, support the key entities, which are the regulator, but also the service companies, both EGTC and EDSA, to be as robust as possible, to be able to ensure that they deliver low-cost energy. And I think it will be part of our discussion this afternoon. The minister should be able to shed light. What is important for this year is that once we sign, we don't know the date will be signaled, we expect an initial disbursement in the tune of about $48 million to facilitate the setup and do all efforts at entry into force to make the MCC very effective. That will be disbursed this year upon signature. IMF as well. We've done very well with the IMF. We shouldn't have been in the program, sincerely, by the time we got the second term of this government. But for the astute leadership of His Excellency, who made strong commitments to the IMF, that is committed to the reforms, both on tax, but also expenditure and other reforms. And we followed through as an economic team. We were able to successfully conclude the extended credit facility that lasted 2018 to 2023. And we got signal approval for a new program in March. We have been in negotiation. By end June, we have actually met all the targets. We expect the IMF to visit us in September, and the board date for disbursement is set for November 1, at least for the new program. This new program will last for 3 years, and it's going to give us access to 90% of our quota, plus an additional program, which is the extend the Resilience Sustainability Trust Facility program, which is purely to support reforms on climate change and disaster risks. When you combine the both, which will allow us close to 75%, additional 75% in quota, both of those will give us access to close to $500 million with a $50 million disbursement every 6 months coming into supporting our economic management. So these are clear efforts. These are very clear efforts at mobilizing resources to support low efforts at domestic revenue mobilization. The World Bank as well, we've concluded successfully the budget support operations in the last 3 years, that it resulted into $265 million direct investment into the budget. We are having an additional, we have concluded negotiations for another round of series of budget support operations. This should be, we have triggers that must be implemented, reforms that must be implemented. There are 9 reform actions, and we have been engaging affected MDAs in the area of climate change, financial sector, stability, fiscal management, but also governance issues, and making credibility of our budget, which I think is a concern across the world. This across the country. This will allow us to draw down $65 million every year between 2024 and 2026. That's a solid, I think, solid support to the budget as well. European Union, and I must say this, European Union as well, in our discussion with them, is going to commence budget support beginning from this year. It's a total of 65 million euros for the next couple of years. It will last up to 2027. They will drop in $11 million euros this year, and in the next, for 2025, 18 million euros, and the subsequent years, 18 million euros each. And I think these are solid efforts, in my view, at supporting our domestic revenue mobilization efforts. In addition, and I'll speak to university innovative finance initiatives when I get to the capital spending that has been spoken about. Honorable Vice President, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, in the budget call circular, this is basically on the budget formulation process now. On the budget call circular, we did provide guidelines and budget ceilings on the preparations of respective MDA budget proposals. Of course, the fundamental issue with budget is constraints. So given the limited budget constraints, we did provide ceilings for 2025, but of course the medium-term budget preparation is 2025 up to 2027. And so we're doing baseline budgeting. We expect you to work within your ceiling, but give us an idea as to really what is involved in delivering on your sector, on your MDA. And then we'll engage purely in the budget negotiation that will redirect resources to the big five. This is really the approach here. We want to be able to know really the true delivery of your sector, work within your ceiling, we'll see where the gaps are, and we'll know exactly how to fund the big five. This is the clear message. Yeah, and then we'll prioritize on certain sectors that must allow these big five to be delivered. We maintain your delivery in the way we think we can allow you to be still effective, but give more push to the big five so that this will bring meaning to the intent of both the National Development Plan, but also the manifesto of the government. So, in preparing your estimates, especially the recurring budget, because I think the development budget has been clear directive of those, all MDAs must ensure that their budget proposal estimates stay within the ceiling, while giving us clear indication of what your real delivery will be. And in addition, all outstanding commitments, including all existing contracts and supplies that you have done for the current year, that may not be fully fulfilled, those ones have to be included. Because we want to limit those supplies eating into next year's, deeply into next year's deliverables. Because that's really the way, in most of the challenges, in most of the MDAs, you carry forward and it eats up nearly maybe 40–50% of the next year's real resources that you should be using to deliver projects. We have admonished that it must include, must adequately provide for prior to projects. No new projects, we don't want. MDAs must strongly be advised not to budget for new projects that are capital projects without the approval of the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development. I think that has been said. All new capital projects will have to be formulated in the framework of public investment management, according to that policy that has been gone out by the Minister already. And this is to ensure that we are very clear on the delivery of the medium-term plan, but also the big five, and ensure that your strategic plan are clearly aligned with it, and that the budget estimates are consistent within the next 3 years. So stay within the budget for ceilings, we'll do the adjustments, but let's know what you'll be doing next year and the other year. That's how we must be looking at it. It's not just 1 year, it's actually a 3-year window. That should give us a guide as to how you're going to deliver on it. More importantly, this is basically for my colleague ministers, kindly ensure that you take full ownership of the budget strategy, the strategy of the ministry, and ensure that you are the one that approve those estimates, and that's what we are going to take to do the negotiation with the Ministry of Finance. Our expenditure will be structured, as I've said, designed to reflect delivery on the big five, And on fifth salon, I think it's important for me to make some policy pronouncements as well. We'll maintain our commitment to attain the 10% of the budget, at least within this period that we have committed to deliver it. That is in the budget, and we must ensure that it is delivered in time to align with the planting season, because the whole issue has been you miss it. If the money comes late, you've actually undermined delivery on the fifth salon programs, all time bound, and we are very much aware of this. But also we have identified 6 ecological areas. Our focus will remain on those, both for our domestic revenue mobilization, but also with partners. We have identified infrastructure gaps in the agricultural sector, be it irrigation, road access to those ecologies, energy, building of key infrastructure for agriculture. These are the focus that we want to pay attention to. We will work on access to capital for farmers, both large but also our smallholder farmers, and we will maintain the policies around ensuring that these farmers have inputs, using whether it's e-vouchers and other forms of having access to capital. We're working on innovative financing for agricultural sector, both insurance but also agricultural fund. We'll engage with the ministry to deliver on this. On human capital development, we will sustain current budget allocations to ensure that government drive on human capital still remain a focus. But I think we have injected a lot of resources that has actually taken us from the low base to some level. We are going to be trying to maintain that and capitalize more on its international financing support to ensure that this program does not fall out of the way. We still are committed to it, but the flagship is fifth salon. So I think I should pronounce that as a policy statement as well. On infrastructure and technology, the fundamental issue is bankable projects. If you don't have bankable projects, you will not be able to do much in this space. We have met many times with donors. The first thing they ask you is, where are the bankable projects? What we have in the PIP are largely concept notes. Concept note does not give you money. You have to have pre-feasibility studies, feasibility studies, financial model around the investments. That is what it takes to go to the bank. So we are investing in the Ministry of Development to deliver this aspect, help line ministries for those projects that have been identified. Let's have solid documents. That's what gives us the armor to go and lead partners. We'll ensure innovative financing schemes on roads, for example. We want to stop investing on charity roads. Charity roads. Yes, especially on highly applied roads or charity forms of having access to water. Charity forms of having access to energy. No, you have to pay for water. You have to pay for roads, especially highly applied routes. Now, the innovative financing approach is the following. If we have an investor, a contracting firm or construction firm that has identified source of financing for a road that we know is bankable, and I'll give you an example of those that are going to come that the president has pronounced. He has pronounced roads in Moyamba. He wants to do the Mambang up to Kanbatok. He wants to do from Mabang up to even Shenge, for example. Those are leading to serious economic zones. These are fish farming zones that feed the entire country, but they have been cut off. People are not having access to them. They're using bad road through water to come to Freetown, for example. You can do that road and toll them. And they can be heavily pliable and they can be pre-financed. And then we can allow how to make sure that within the budget, according to the way we have actually cracked out the financing agreement, we can program ourselves to pay. What has been happening in the country with capital spending on roads? We took upon them in the capital budget. We didn't plan for them properly, and then we caught up with the scale of it. So we have bloated budgets, bloated road projects that can never finish, and they get caught up with changes in prices, bloated values, and then they are suffocating the budget. So we are actually reading, when you hear the Minister of Development saying they are going to be doing what they call review, reprogram, rationalize. Take a stock of existing projects and prioritize them. That's what it means. So we want to ensure that we really have control over road projects and have control over our capital expenditures. On energy, I must say, it's the same approach. The fundamental issue with the energy sector has to do with subsidies. So we are committed to working with the energy sector to see how best to address reducing subsidies. We have done 7 town electricity projects. We are committed to ensuring that those projects are implemented this year. We are also committed in increasing uptake on regional power, trade, and supply. So issues around WAP, Transco, CI Energy, West African Power Pool access, these are things that we need to really ramp up in the year to come to make sure we support. There are many great investments in the country, but they are costly for our people. We have committed to provide subsidy to that space and see how best we can lower the price. We are currently doing that. That's another, lower the price for, to be able to reach out to the remote areas where these services are provided for our people. And also ensuring that renewable energy, hydro and solar investment, we optimize on them and ensure that there's clear governance around ETSA and the others, and ETSA and EGTC, but also EWRC. So let me conclude on issues around budget execution challenges and the way I believe we should be addressing them. Extra budgetary expenditures. Where MPs are in, but what we have is a perennial problem. We submit requests for expenditures that we are not in the budget, median. And this causes a lot of slippages to priorities. So if you are encouraging to stay within budget, and the posture is if it is not in the budget, if it's not appropriated for, we will not fund it. And that's why when MDAs have been coming for enhancement of their budget median, because of our engagement with the Public Accounts Committee in Parliament, and we don't want to falter on the appropriation that has been given on the law, we send MDAs to go and seek appropriation when we don't do supplementary budget. So if it's not appropriated, we want to stop the habit of doing extra budgetary expenditure as much as we can. Also on India requests for salary adjustment promotions that were not budgeted for, causing overruns of the wage bill. We have the WCC. It's going to take us like 2 years to conclude that work, but there will be adjustments in earnings and the like. That's why we commenced the whole process of wage bill consultations this year. So if it has not been approved prior to the budget or the manpower planning process, we will not approve it. If there is any approval, it has to come through the Ministry of Finance, and we have to look through, we sit with the WCC and rationalize. We are not going to be doing that because we are working structurally to rationalize wages, create proper wage relativities in the country, and be able to afford that we can afford. I just want to note that high security related expenditure have been driving our budgets of late. Of course, I'll point to what has been happening, whether it's strike scares or strike actions or attempted coup, all those things are governance issues. Just this signal of continuous insecurity is costing a lot of spending, and I think it's important for you to displace the budget somewhat. When we have to provide for peace and social stability, I think all else will have to wait until we handle this. It's important to know that. So if some NDAs are actually allowed to wait for a while for us to be able to ensure that you get your allocation for the year, know that we are handling other pressing issues that are creating the peace that we are enjoying around. And I've mentioned debt service. Of course, the whole issue of debt is historical accumulation of debt for a state. When they do fall due, you cannot default. We have to stay solvent. We're a credible nation. We have never defaulted. This nation has never defaulted. We have never, ever. So not under our watch, we will not allow that to be the case. So we will honor our obligations under difficult circumstances. And the reason why we are coming up with all these policies for enhanced domestic revenue mobilization and ensure that we have control over it. On capital budget, just to summarize, Your Excellency, Vice President, and colleagues, Minister of Development, Moped, has been very clear on the governance framework around capital budget. She's been very clear about innovating financing scheme, the need for bankable projects, avoiding in-year approvals, but ensuring that she will rationalize the existing PIP program. I would just encourage that we all support that process and we'll have control over our budgets going forward, make it credible. So let me conclude that, Vice President, please, that the government is keen on fostering prudent management of public resources in order to support inclusive economic growth and development. So the policy measures that will be articulated in the budget for 2025, they are expected to improve economic-wide efficiency, create the enabling environment that supports growth in businesses and investments, reduce the cost of living, and also enhance the well-being of all Ghanaians. So I would like to express my deep appreciation to my colleague, Deputy Minister, Finance 1 and 2, Financial Secretary, Director of Budget, the dedicated teams that have worked with us from all MDAs, including colleague ministers in the budget process. The process is going to continue, as we said, with strategic topical hearings, and then we'll have a retreat where we'll actually look finally at the numbers and how they all fit, so that we can know that the storyline we are saying will support the Big Five will come out very clearly. And while it is possible to execute a good budget very poorly, it is also impossible to effectively execute a properly poorly prepared budget. So I urge you to be involved in the process, take ownership. I heard the CSO guiding us on key topical issues, gender budgeting, child budgeting, but I've also spoke about baseline budgeting. All of those policies that we have sent in the core circular will come to pass. So let me thank you very much for listening. I think the process has just started, and I encourage everyone to support us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I think you really said it all in terms of what needs to be done to the budget. I cannot elaborate any further, otherwise I'll want to talk. I think you really said it all. Thank you, Minister. Well, to put all of these economic theories, policies, principles, concepts in the context of the budget planning, for the layman to understand, there is nobody best placed to do that than our Honorable Vice President, who is going to translate all these economic policies for the layman to understand what the budget means. So, Honorable Vice President, sir.
Thank you very much. Can you sit down, please? I think, Mr. Chairman, I will start to translate that in an anecdote to show that time has changed. When we were very young guys, school-going kids, in secondary school those days, when they say the Minister of Finance is going to pronounce on budget, I remember most of the time I was in Tonkolili district, in Juldeh, that is in Konkoleken Chiefdom, where I had uncles who were headmasters and principals, who buy a new battery, who all sit down and listen to the Minister of Finance. And I remember those days of Asakwese Kanu and others, Saliago Suseri. If the Minister of Finance did not announce increase in salaries of head teachers and principals, we will suffer for 1 week in the house. But if those salaries are increased, believe you me, it's another Christmas. So, but time has changed. Today, when you listen to the Minister of Finance, it's structural shift and structural transformation. I want to advise that when you add salary increase there, the people in the villages will listen to you and they will buy batteries for their Minister, for giving me this opportunity every year to come and underline the policy perspectives underpinning the budget process. But first of all, I want to thank you personally, you and your team, your deputy ministers, and the entire team in the ministry over the years for the tremendous work you've done to stabilize the economy and support service delivery. Particularly against the backdrop of very, very difficult, challenging period, not only in the sub-region, but in the entire global economy. We spoke about the dollar, being able to stabilize it. The FS said we want to keep it that way. No, we want to bring it down. And because we want to bring it down, we have taken extraordinary measures to allow the Central Bank of Sierra Leone to invest and start using leones to buy gold, so that gold reserve is going to constitute collateral for strengthening the value of the leone. So we have done all of that, and we expect, and there's a direct relationship between that and the cost of living. You realize that today, in the last couple of months, we have been able to stabilize the prices of essential commodities, but the cost of those commodities in the very far rural areas continue to fluctuate. Because if you buy rice, for example, 850 leones, and then flour 750, onion between 450 and 550 in Freetown and urban towns. When you move further where the road network is very difficult, the price increases a little bit further. So I think we've asked the Minister of Trade to work on a price stabilization formula wherein businessmen cannot just get up overnight and increase the price of essential commodity without engaging the Minister of Trade. And they want to do that, and the dollar, like I said, is directly linked to that. We have seen the progressive decrease in food inflation. And then also I want to thank the Minister and his team for respecting international financial benchmarking. I was very proud when a couple of weeks ago I was in France. I had the opportunity to interact with senior French officials when they announced to me that Sierra Leone is now qualified for loans from the French Ministry of Finance and Treasury. And that you don't get easily if you don't show seriousness in how you manage the economy. So today, most French companies have been called to the Ministry of Finance to announce that news. Eiffage, Matière, of course, while I was in Paris, I organized several calls with the Minister of Finance to link him up with some of those big French companies that will have access loans from French government with a very small interest rate, about 2 to 3%. And that is what most French countries have been profiting today, given the excellent relationship we have with France and the good relationship between the President of France and His Excellency President Juldeh. Those opportunities are coming to our doorstep, and I want to encourage you to continue to tap on those new opportunities. We have seen a very difficult transition from development financing to subsidy. In the last couple of years, the Ministry of Finance has done extraordinary well, because when there is an increase in the cost of living, we never allowed that to be translated to the ordinary citizens. So we came in the form of subsidies. We subsidized fuel, we subsidized rice. Now the minister just told me they're trying to get back the custom duties on rice. We subsidize electricity. Sierra Leoneans are paying the least for electricity outside of countries like Algeria and those countries that have oil. But in the sub-region, in terms of our tariff structure, and I believe these are very difficult times, but also these are times where we have stood up as a country. We have showcased our capacity to manage the economy very well. So I want to thank you, Honorable Minister, once again Moving forward, I think you have already outlined the key perspective. What we expect is what I will call, in the layman's term, bridge budgeting. I don't know whether that is layman enough. Bridge budgeting means that you build a budget that creates linkages. The idea is to consolidate the gains we have made and open new perspective into the big five. So all the gains we have made in the human capital development sector, we want to keep them, and then we want to build on them, and then we also want to open new perspective. So we want to build a bridge between those gains and the new horizon we are moving into, especially the ones that have been clearly outlined by the Minister of Planning and Economic Development. Some of these gains, I don't need to list them here, we all know them. What we have been able to achieve in the education sector, the budgetary, we have increased budgetary allocation there. We have increased the number of people, added 1 million people to the school system over the years, prioritized girls' education. Of course, health, we've done extremely well in maternal and infant mortality. We have been able to progressively reduce from 2018, when we came, the statistics was 1,165 for 100,000 live births. Today we are at 440, and we are waiting for the new statistics, which we are sure and confident that we're going below, we are going downwards, and that is a very good one also for infant mortality. In the area of energy, it has been very difficult, but we have achieved. We've been able to expand access, we've been able to improve on solar mini grids. Today, over 54 towns in this country have off-grid solar solution. Tomorrow, I'll be in Portloco District, in one of the chiefdoms in Lokomsama, one of the big towns in Lokomsama, to put on another grid. So it shows we have been able to work on the transmission lines, we have expanded access, and we continue to subsidize. But moving forward, I will come to that, we need to reduce drastically the energy budgetary support to the energy sector. And that will not come by just increasing tariff, because as a country we are obliged to keep the tariff structure. We know that 90% of consumers are within the social tariff category. We want to keep that, but what we want to see in the energy sector is improved management. Because all the investment that is coming to the energy sector, 480 million from MCC, DFS, and all those, if you increase generation, you modernize the transmission line, you expand distribution network, but the offtake and management, the governance of the sector is not effective, efficient. Believe me, all that investment will go to the ground. So we want to see thorough reform in that sector, particularly the offtake and the utilities, to rise up to the challenge to reduce technical and commercial losses, because we have to get that. Of course, in the area of transport, you've seen connectivity have been improved fiber connectivity. We have expanded the networks. More and more Sierra Leoneans now have access to internet. And then Wakafai malls, of course, we've done some reform in the port. We are expanding the port. Other potential investors are coming to do further investment in the port to expand the port. In all of these gains, we still look into the future. We look to the future because one key areas I normally tell people, when you have a government that spends a lot of money in the social sector, that government needs to unleash the potential of the productive sector. You need to make money. For you to distribute money, you have to make money. So we have to go to the productive sector. So we are looking into the future. It means while we are trying to support the big five, we also have key areas that we need to focus on. We know with the big five, already in the last couple of years, we have seen improving local food production, particularly the feed salon. We have seen its movement gradual increase. from 947,000 metric tons, now we are at 1.2 million metric tons. In the last couple of years, we have also, I want to thank you very much for the $10 million grant you've given to farmers. But like we said in one economic management meeting, we still have to do more to ensure that people who want to go into agriculture have competitive loans. They are not subjected to the same interest rate like people who want to go and buy and sell. We have to de-risk that lending. We have to ensure that is something we have started discussing, that we are working with the IFC to see if we can create a collateral funding at the central bank to support people. Because when you go for loans, if you have a collateral funding to support you, you are able to reduce the insurance. If you reduce the insurance, the interest rate will automatically come down. So we have to create additional incentive to encourage private sector investment in the agricultural stream. Like His Excellency normally says, the objective of Feed Salon is one single objective: increase domestic food production. Because over the years, the amount of money we are spending to import onions, to import poultry products, to import rice is too huge. And that also has corresponding impact. Minister, you know, every time we are under stress from suppliers for additional foreign currency. So when we increase domestic food production, when you have a country like ours that spends about $600 to $800 million to import food, if you reduce that, then you create less stress on the foreign economy. And also, make no mistake, the agriculture sector is the most promising sector for job creation. From production to processing to commercialization. It's a huge opportunity. That is, I'm very happy that you made a seminar statement here that you continue to support agriculture. We're very happy about that. And then we have seen massive improvement today, like you said. Industry, I'm very impressed that you gave us the statistics. We have worked very hard to encourage companies to come and establish industries here. And now, we also have to encourage them. Particularly, we have to review the consensual regime. We are going to give concessions, waivers to companies. We want to encourage them to go further up country. Now you have electricity in Bo, you have electricity in Kono, you have electricity, the CLSD line is being extended to the north, to Bolivia, going down to Koinadugu, coming down to Karine. So the further you establish an industry in the region, the more waivers you are going to get. That is an incentive to create jobs in those regions. You know, that would be very, very interesting, because today we have seen the growth of industries in Freetown, and we are struggling to provide space for them. So many people want spaces in the ports, people want to be around Kisi. We are struggling to provide spaces. So let's give them some concessions so that they can move in country, so that is an encouragement for them to go. Because one of the arguments they normally give is that you don't have electricity in country. Now that we have the CLSG line and it is working, we can encourage them to go. We have seen the growth of industries. Today we produce cocoa, we produce our own sardine, vegetable oil, we export vegetable oil, we export Maggi cube to our neighbors. And then we see onions, the production is getting up. Today, if you go to the PC and Son farm, if they package the onions that are grown there, you will not make a distinction between that and the ones that is imported from outside. That is, we are seeing a lot of investment in that area. Essentially, we have also done very well with regards to infrastructure. You see, we are very happy that when we travel up country, we see communities come to thank His Excellency for the bridges. You know, Operation No Ferry, we are gradually trying to get those old ferries out. And we are always very, very proud when communities come to show their appreciation to His Excellency the President for that. We have seen private sector involvement not only in agriculture, but in so many other things. The basis for job creation is growing. And for job creation, already there's a strategy, there's a job creation strategy which will go to cabinet that will link all the key sectors within government. And in addition to that job creation strategy, we have expanded dialogue, what we call a social dialogue with labor unions and employers, because we need to take their views into how we are going to carve out our job creation strategy. And we expect the President to launch that job creation strategy in the next couple of months. We have expanded investment in social protection. Over the years, in 2018, when we came, the budget from our development partners were around $22 million. We introduced a new dimension we call the productive social safety net. That allowed us to increase that allocation to $42 million. Just last week, we came at this week to see how to enhance coordination in that space. So these are things that are also being moved by several ministries, including Minister of Health, Minister of Education, Gender, Minister of Youth, and Minister of Labor. So that is the process that also needs support. On the human capital development is that we've done very well. I'm very happy that you made a commitment to support that. And I must say the challenges we have now in that sector is to improve management in one or two areas. Donors are calling for the expansion of the school feeding program. They expressed challenges in the school feeding program, and I believe expansion of the school feeding program has not been accompanied by a solid infrastructure that allows us to properly monitor that. The Minister is here to take note of that. That is one thing that came from the Kenema meeting. And then also when it comes to health, we've done very good indicators. Hospital management is still a challenge. We go to hospitals and we see that there are challenges there. But that is also related to the fact that allocations within the ministry is very slow. So the last time we had a meeting with the minister, we decided to carve out a terminology that we call life-saving allocations. You have allocations that are very critical, that when they are stalled, like allocations to the security sector and the health ministry, when they are stalled, they automatically impact the management and functioning of hospitals. And sometimes it's a problem. So let's get that recurrent, let's get that as a priority so that we don't delay on that. That will help to improve hospital management as well. We still know we have to reduce out-of-pocket expenditure on health. That is one key area. On infrastructure, we are very pleased with what is happening in the Ministry of Communication, Technology and Innovation, Digital Transformation and Technological Advancement. We have seen increased connectivity, like I've just said. We are now seeing the role of technology in supporting the Big Five and improving governance. We are very, very happy about that. And then also we see the financial inclusion through technology. Just a couple of weeks ago, a big company that is operating in other Francophone countries called Wave, and I was very impressed. They came to Sierra Leone. This is one of the biggest money transfer companies. They are opening up here, and we are very, very happy about that. And then, of course, we have spoken about energy, gradual reduction from the budget. Energy needs to break even. And we need to see, we are happy now we have a new chairman of EDSA to see how to improve the management. That is the key challenge in the energy sector. It's not generation. It's not generation. The road network, we are also improving, working on that. And I want to thank the Minister of Works. In the last couple of days, we have been engaged with the Minister of Works, the Road Maintenance Fund, and the SLRA to think about alternative financing model for road networks, so that at least we are able to reduce the stress on the national budget. Public sector reform, of course, this is critical. For you to deliver, for a government to deliver, you need a workforce. You need an efficient, motivated, and a viable public sector infrastructure to help support delivery. So this is a new ministry and it needs support. Already we established a working group under my supervision. We've done a lot of work there. We wanted to support the ministry to be able to develop, to roll out the public sector policy so that at least to revamp the reform of the public sector. Since it's a new ministry, it requires support in terms of processes and also in terms of new staffing to enable that ministry to stand on its feet and be able to do excellent work, because that is something. I also want to take the opportunity, honorable ministers, to appreciate ministries that have worked very hard to increase revenue in their respective ministry. I want to start with the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources. We have seen that the revenue is increasing. We know that ministry has got huge potential. They can do more to do that. Through access job creation, we note the very significant strides they have made to increase job opportunities. Another ministry is tourism. We see that have also supported the service sector. The service sector today, as the minister said, it has improved. So tourism is one sector, one ministry that have been doing excellent work around that, trying to make sure that the service sector contributes. Lands ministry, we have seen a massive increase in the budget of the lands ministry, their contribution to the budget. Today is they have resources, and that resources allow them also to further invest in the new administrative city in Juldeh. You know, we have acquired lands and we need to pay for that. So since they have money, it's a very fine way to do that. We see mines, we've seen the establishment of the Mineral Wealth Fund. That is a cardinal move. I want to thank the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Mines for the establishment of such a fund to add value to our mineral resources. But we also want to appreciate ongoing efforts and reform in certain key sectors, particularly sectors that need resources. Because if we are investing a lot of money today in free quality education, the future of free quality education is going to be the status of higher and technical education. We have to invest in higher and technical education in essentially three big areas. One is infrastructure. Today when you go to those campuses, they complain they don't have enough classrooms. But I'm also very pleased and thank the Minister for the alternative financing model she has presented to Cabinet to generate additional resources to support higher and technical education. Because if we don't get it right, our investment in free quality education is going to seriously be undermined. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done there in terms of human resource, in terms of infrastructure. And also I'm very happy that the mention of the local councils. Local councils, they are central to delivery. Make no mistake, if you go to these councils, just in the last couple of days I've been in Bo, I've been in Kerema, I've just got another interministerial committee meeting. If you don't have councils in this country, governance will be crippled. Because the number of negotiations, development, social assistance negotiations, these councils are involving from ward level to the district level to the municipalities are huge. So they need support. And we spoke, we made a fantastic presentation, the ministry made a fantastic presentation on how to support them. And one thing that we agreed on is capital grants. The capital grant council, no council in this country has got a single vehicle. If you can help them with the purchase of 25 vehicles, that will go a long way to support them. I want you to please pay attention to that, put that in the project, so that at least one vehicle per council, we have 22. So just to round it up 25, so new areas of financing. Please, we want to encourage ministers that have got new opportunities of financing. Climate financing, very, very important. Climate financing is also very important, and we want to pay attention to that. But the ministry also does not have enough human technical staff. If you can support the ministry to be able to get the kind of technical staff they need to be more proactive in climate financing, that will be great. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think the Minister of Finance has said everything. And like I just said, my responsibility here is to draw the Ministry of Finance and also to appreciate key sector ministries that are really revenue generating ministries that have been doing very well to continue to do more. We still have a lot of challenges, and I know, and that, but we are on a very good trajectory. We are working very hard as a government. We have been able to provide support to critical sectors against very difficult times. I'm very happy that the minister made mention that is not going to increase tax, but the challenge we have is to enhance tax management. If we can invest additional resources in that, and invest. Our brother, Mr. Abubakar Kamara from the Civil Society Organization made some very interesting point. And I believe the National Investment Board is responsible for public-private dialogue. They should be able to create a platform. The National Investment Board should be able to create a platform for that dialogue so that at least feed the outcomes of those dialogues to get private sector involvement in the project process, not only in the project process, and also in being competitive, into that. So I think that is a very, very good point. And I hope I see that the DG of the National Investment Board is here. They have been doing that, maybe is to expand the dialogue, the PPD dialogue, so that they can make very good impact, particularly around taxation. I also want to encourage the Ministry of Finance to support processes that increase efficiency regime. Efficiency regime meaning that, like I just mentioned, school feeding is one key area. Make sure that the life-saving allocations, how to make sure it is regular and it comes on time, because hospitals need to be. There are also key sectors that need support, Mr. Minister. One key sector is the Ministry of Information that have been doing extraordinary work over the last 1 year, and they need support. And they need support to expand their work. And these are usually supports that are outside of the normal budgetary allocation, because events do come. If events do come and they are big events and they need support, but at least that is critical. The Leone Broadcasting Corporation is still in the 1960s mood. We need now to take it to a post-modern age. We need analog TV. We need to improve that. These are investments that comes with a lot of added value. The more people we go there, they'll be able to make money. They'll be able to cover programs. They'll have resources. But when they are rich and quality and mobility is very low, it becomes a problem. And also the support to the fight against push. This is the support that usually not find itself within the budgetary cap. It's also, don't forget about that, it's also very important. We see the NDLA, they are doing fantastic work, but they are struggling with mobility capacity. How do we support that fight? It is going very well. Just yesterday, the director of NDLA was telling me the price of push has gone to 55 bills. It's essentially because we have been able to squeeze the distribution network and increase vigilance at the port. So now people take risks to sell it. People take risks to sell it. I believe with additional support they'll be able to close that gap. I'm also happy security sector is also one we have done very well over the years with regards to the security and defense sector. When His Excellency came, he promised a 100% salary increase, and we have seen that 25% per year over the last 4 years. That has gone very well. We have increased the mobility capacity of the security sector. For a long time in the history of this country, we now have a modern communication equipment for the police that they no longer depend. They no longer depend on using mobile phone to pass operational orders. We have one. So I want to thank the minister for that. And these are just some ideas I want to share with you. To thank you and to thank all those ministers that are working very hard under very difficult circumstances. And I've already passed your message that for you to buy battery and listen to the radio, that the discourse of the budget, the finance minister has to shift a little bit from structural to welfareism in terms. But we also want to appreciate all of you. We want to thank, I know the next couple of days will be very interesting. The other thing that I want to finish on is what we also concluded on, is the budget ceiling. Usually, if you are cutting down on the budget ceiling, please open a space for dialogue. Sometimes ministries develop their budget against critical benchmarking in light of their mandate. So if there's going to be a drastic cut, please open a dialogue space, discuss with them, exchange with them, so that at least you can make adjustments where necessary. Where necessary, it is very critical. Because I remember the discussion we had with you and the Minister of Health on the life-saving allocations, and I was very surprised that the budget cuts for the Minister of Health was really drastic. And these are life-saving allocations, and we need to keep them to get the hospital particularly function at the optimal level we want them. So, honorable ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time. And in the usual traditional way, this is how we start the budget hearing. I'll give you my own modest layman contribution, as the Finance Secretary says, and we hope that the dialogue for budgeting will continue, and that more importantly, like you said, I am very impressed when I went to Brussels, and I went to France, and I went to Europe, and that the way they appreciated the management of the economy in this very difficult time. I was really proud, and I want to thank you very much. I wish you to do it.
Thank you very much, Honorable Vice President. I think you did even more than what the layman can understand. Everyone will understand. Thank you very much. We really appreciate those insights that will shape the discussions on the budgets over the coming weeks as we try to conclude this budget planning process. We cannot close without doing justice to the Gender Act to make sure at least we fulfill the 30%. So if you look at the number of presenters here, so far you can calculate what's the percentage of women that have presented. So I want to make sure I exceed the 30% by end of this session. So I'll invite my dear sister, Deputy Minister of Finance 1, Mrs. Karia Tuale, to give us closing courtesies so we can bring this formal opening session to an end. Let's give her a round of applause.
It is an honor and privilege to be giving the kind of courtesies for this year's national policy hearing and bilateral budget discussion with MDAs and other stakeholders. I would like to thank our esteemed Honorable Vice President of the Republic of Sierra Leone for taking time off his hectic schedule to be with us here today. We especially appreciate your inspiring speech, sir, which will guide us throughout the national budget deliberations in the coming days and weeks. I want to thank the Honorable Minister of Finance and other ministers of government for participating in this year's national policy hearing and bilateral budget discussions with the MDAs and other stakeholders. As is always the case, today, the idea behind today's hearing is to have a discussion and to sensitize the executive and development partners of policy issues that will drive our budget for 2025. I would also like to thank the Secretary to the President, permanent secretaries and representatives of MDAs, representatives of bilateral and multilateral institutions, representatives of civil society, and members of the Fourth Estate, distinguished guests. I thank you all for taking time to join us today. You are all very wonderful. I cannot proceed without recognizing members of Parliament present here today. We appreciate your time and your effort to help make the executive deliver on its mandate. The staff of the Ministry of Finance, the Accountant General's Department, especially our dynamic Financial Secretary, our committed Chief Economist, a very able Accountant General, distinguished and accomplished directors and staff. I'm very proud to be a part of your team in the Ministry of Finance. I give all of you special thanks. The man behind all of this, the Director of National Budget, Chief Tassima Jah. Thank you all very much, and have a good rest of the celebration coming. Thank you.